Hello, 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 my man Daniele Mensi.
Hey, nice
Wow,
to
it's been
see
a
you.
long time, brother.
Long
Good to see
time,
you. Good to
long
see
time.
you.
We cannot travel a lot, so that's why we are not meeting each other so often.
Indeed, but you know what? This is my first show during the week, talking about blockchain technology and fintech and whatnot. So, as you know, I mentioned to you the other day, I kicked off about two shows during the week. And the first one on Monday, every single Monday, we're going to have a show called the Redefine Your Hustle Show. But on Friday, it is kind of a continuation of that particular show, but we focus more on technology, right? So we focus more on the fintech, we focus more on blockchain technology, but also, and most importantly, we talk about alternative investment, which is one of my favorite topics. And I know that it is yours too, right?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
so, for everybody else who is tuning in, welcome, welcome, and welcome. Please make sure that you share this link, share on your page. If you follow me on LinkedIn or if you follow me on Twitter or on YouTube, on Facebook, make sure that you are able to share this link with your peers. Share, comment, ask questions. It is really important that we actually get your questions in because I got one of the experts on blockchain technology. I will tell you exactly where I met Daniele because obviously he will be able to introduce himself as well. And so yeah, I'm just getting warmed up and getting the momentum going. And I see there's about 10 people coming in. So this is going to be an awesome, amazing show. I promise you guys, this is an amazing event. Share the link with your peers. Make a comment below. Share the link with your peers so we can actually have you to discussing with us. Okay. So great. So Daniele, what I would like you to do, Daniele, first of all, you know what? Welcome and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. So I'm just promoting the link right now. Some people, I share the link, I share the picture, and some of them
Right.
is saying, how can I connect? So not all the people are
Hold on. No,
usually,
no, you know what you need to do, by the way, what do you need to do? Share my Twitter link. Okay,
yeah,
share my Twitter link because this thing is going on Twitter as well. So find my Twitter and blast it out over there to your pages so we can actually get a lot of people actually to come in. Share this on your Twitter. It is important. Share this on your Twitter page, and yeah, let's get a lot of people to engage, guys. So this is going to be an awesome 1 hour event where we kind of really unpack a lot of value for you guys. Okay, so without further ado, Danielle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience? So I just want you to really talk about yourself and what you're currently busy with. Let's get the people to get to know you, and of course, you know, we'll talk about where we met and what you and I have been able to do around the world on blockchain. Come on, go on.
yeah. So I'm so-called digital entrepreneur. So meaning that I don't have a paycheck that I can rely on a monthly basis, that every day I have to shape my future. So it's good at the end of the day because you are responsible of your own journey. And it's tough, but it's so exciting, especially in this period of time where you have a lot of, I could say, opportunity to build something better for the future. So, in a very few words, as I said before, I'm a technology entrepreneur. I left the enterprise world. I was working as a CEO in a global messaging communication company. Then I stepped over and I decided to embrace an entrepreneurial challenge. And then it was tough because I was not ready, and it's still I don't think people are ready somehow because they don't know what's going to happen next. But I am all in the development of new technology, new business model, new ways of raising capital by leveraging the power of the blockchain technology. And in terms of in which company, which brands I'm attached to, I am the director and of BlockSearch Blockchain International and the president of Fusion STX. In a very short words, BlockSearch is is a blockchain company that have developed a full stack of technology to address the needs of using the blockchain to do many things. We can eventually explain a little bit more in detail. And then we're building even a window to the secondary market when it comes down to trading and allow token or a piece of an asset that could be traded on the secondary market by reaching the so-called digital capital markets. So I'm all in the blockchain and in the digital market space.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for that introduction, really, Daniele. Much appreciated. What I would like to find out from you is this. When did you actually come around blockchain technology or cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and whatnot? Can you tell me exactly a little bit? I'll tell you my story as well. But I mean, can you tell the audience when exactly did you actually started engaging with blockchain technology? And
I remember,
why?
probably I remember better this than my first date with a girl. And so it was September 2016.
Okay.
And I was invited as a guest speaker to a cybersecurity symposium in a beautiful American university in Lugano, Switzerland. And I was there to talk about the cybersecurity threats in specific domains of business. And then there was a professor from Trento University. He was an expert in cryptography, and he was giving a lecture about using what was about the cryptography within the Bitcoin and the blockchain. I listened to this speech a couple of hours. Believe me, I did not understand anything at all. What this guy is talking about? Yeah, what is that? I mean,
right.
Blockchain. First of all, blockchain and Bitcoin next to each other were confusing to me because I was mixing up what is blockchain, what is Bitcoin, and what is somehow the interaction between the two. Right. And it was so complicated for me to grasp. And this guy was telling, I mean, I spoke to him later because I was very curious. And then he was saying to me, you seem to not understand what in which period of time we're living on. And I say, look, I've been living until now and I've been survived. And I started to dig into it. And I think September, October, I bought my first Bitcoins, 2016.
Right.
Yeah. That was the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you exactly what happened to me, right? So in 2011, right? So I was actually involved as a senior consultant with one of the largest banks in South Africa, the Standard Bank group of companies. But I was actually assigned at a CIB division, so the corporate investment banking. And that's exactly where I fell in love with the world of finance, to be quite honest. Because just like you and I, we are tech entrepreneurs. I've been in the tech business for the last, I would say, 15 years now, and I've been running my own consulting company since 2008. So it's about 12 years now, right? Actually, 12 years and a few months. So, but every single year, I always wanted to identify technology that I wanted to learn. Every single year. And the reason being, as a tech guy, you want to increase on your skills, you want to learn new things, you want to always be ahead of everybody else, because you are offering services to your client and you want to make sure that you are relevant, because technology changes every year, or every 2-3 years, technology changes. Now, when I was at the bank in 2012, I think, I started hearing or seeing on Facebook quite a few ads popping up on my feed talking about Bitcoin. And I thought I couldn't be bothered because, and first of all, when I saw Bitcoin, I was like, well, you know what, this makes sense to me. It seems to me more like it's a digital currency. So I couldn't be bothered because to me, it was a logical step towards implementing some sort of currency. But I didn't spend time enough to really understand what a Bitcoin technology was all about. So that was like, it's okay, right? But in 2013, I remember traveling abroad with my wife and traveling to the States. And during that time, I came across the technology called blockchain. And that was a more interesting technology to me. But it wasn't until 2015 that I started giving myself so much attention to learning and understanding what the blockchain technology was all about. But as I started reading, I realized, and before I started reading, by the way, so guys came to me asking me from LinkedIn. In fact, on LinkedIn, three people reach out to me and say, "Hey, you know what? Have you heard of blockchain or Bitcoin technology? Have you heard of mining?" I was like, "What the heck is mining, dude? I mean, come on, what? And most of these guys came to me from a network marketing perspective because the one, and that's why, by the way, in South Africa for so many years, South Africa was topping the list on the Google trend charts for the keyword Bitcoin. For a very long time, if you went on the Google trend and you Googled on Bitcoin, the number one country in the world was topping the list was South Africa. Right now, I believe it's
Yeah.
Nigeria, but I think for that part of the time was South Africa. So it meant that there was quite a keen interest in South Africa with regard to Bitcoin. But I remember the reason why a lot of people were interested in South Africa with regard to Bitcoin was because of a network marketing company called Triple M. I don't know if you've ever come across, but I think Triple M was such a Ponzi scheme that actually got a lot of people to lose a lot of money. And because of the regulation in South Africa and in another part of Africa, government started tamping down on these guys and closing shop. So that's why Triple M came around Bitcoin. Why? Because Bitcoin is strong, is anonymous and is fast and great way to make money and all that kind of stuff. So everybody in South Africa was excited because the majority of the people were into this whole Triple M business. People wanted to make more money. People wanted to figure out exactly how. And somebody in August 2014 came to me and said, "Hey, John, have you ever heard of Triple M?" I'm like, "No, I don't know what Triple M is." So he started talking to me about the whole Triple M business, right? And I understood that it was a Russian who was behind it,
Yeah.
but so many things around it that I wasn't really too entertained about Bitcoin. I was more interested about alternative finance, alternative ways of raising capital, and so many things like that, right? So, and I started diving deeper in blockchain, and then I learned about the Bitcoin protocol. Man, I was blown away. I was
Mm.
blown away. I was like, wow, this is actually more than the idea of money, right? So this is first of all, it is a piece of technology, a cash electronic peer-to-peer system that allow people to be able to exchange values between amongst them. So I started hanging on into that perspective and wanted to learn more about what the so-called Satoshi Nakamoto decided to come about. So every single time I started reading, and I kept buying books every single month because I was so caught up by the idea of blockchain that what the first book I bought was the Blockchain Revolution, and then I bought the one thing that I have here, the Truth Machine, and so many books that I had to buy over time, which actually gave me quite a few incentive. But I think it was around 2016 as well, just like you, that I really decided, you know what, let me dive in. Let me dive in to understand what the heck is going on with the Bitcoin and the
Yeah.
blockchain. Why are people talking about this thing so much? What is interesting about it, and how can I make use of it? So when I realized that there were a few things, right? So first of all, people losing money, people getting entertained about the network marketing things, people getting into Ponzi schemes, people. So and of course, I've lost money myself. I've lost hundreds of thousands of rand or tens of thousands of dollars, right? But I
Really?
thought, you know what, there was a better way to establish a proper protocol to allow people to learn and understand about this particular ecosystem. And I remember as I started going around the world and on various blockchain events, and you and I met at one of the blockchain events exactly because you were raising capital for a massive project. And this guy, guys, I mean, he was raising tens of millions of dollars. We are going to talk about it as well. But I was so excited. You and I met and we talked about the platform that you showed me back in the days. I was like, wow. When you mentioned that platform to me, I saw a great opportunity, and the one thing we could actually do in Africa, which actually get you and I so remaining connected to explore opportunities of what we can do in Africa. So I decided in 2016 to launch a company called CryptoVex Capital. And CryptoVex Capital was three things in one. So first of all, essentially a consulting firm, an investment advisory firm, and a consulting firm for both individuals as well as corporate companies and experts, and you name it. So as an investment advisory firm, over the years, I managed to create a huge and valuable network of people like yourself. And thank you very much for being on the show. But at the same time, it was also a private fund, right? So I have got a few investors with me who are still working with me right now, and they are in for the long haul. And lastly, it was actually an academy as well. The idea to be able to educate people and to do these kind of shows right now, right? So that's exactly how I got into this journey of blockchain and so forth, and got into even having to host you on a particular show. But the one thing I wanna get you to talk about is, you know, get talk to me a little bit more about why the blockchain matters for you as an individual, but also for finance. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because that's something that you are so passionate about.
I mean, I do see this from an end-to-end perspective, but more specifically, the very game changer element of the blockchain for me, it will challenge the way you do business from all standpoint. Meaning, starting from the crafting of the business model, on how you bring this to market, and how eventually you make your company that is crafting that product working, thanks to all the use of the blockchain. And ultimately, I mean, that's probably in the long run. That it's difficult to say in how long. It will empower people to become the owner of their future from all standpoints.
Agreed.
Meaning they can keep their assets under custody and becoming the banks of themselves. For anything that has a value, they can keep this under their responsibility and custody, so as they will be, you know, financially free, provided that they have financial freedom, and they cannot be dependent by anything in order to decide when to use their asset, their money, their data, and
Right.
and to whom to share with. So to me, blockchain, it means freedom.
You know what? I think we have the same definition, right? Somebody once asked me the question on Facebook when I posted something. It was like, you know what? Can you please explain to me what the hell is the blockchain, right? And my answer to him was very simple. Blockchain essentially allows you to have a better version of the truth. Now, whatever the truth means to you, that's exactly what it is. Because, and I don't want to get too technical as part of this specific show right now, because when we're talking about the truth, I mean, everybody wants to hear that, you know what, whatever I do is truthfully connected to the outcome of what I am looking for, right? And how much better a piece of technology in the world today, being able to give us exactly a version of the truth that can never be encumbered, that can never be reversed, that can never be tampered with. And that's exactly what a blockchain technology is all about, right? And those are the
Yeah.
things. So can you tell me a little bit more about I want you to do it, to juxtapose a few things between blockchain and finance. Why does it matter for the future into the finance world? And can you give me practical example? And before you respond to that, earlier on you mentioned a few things about uh, people can become their own custodian of the digital asset. That's such an important key word, because a lot of the people today they don't trust the banks, right? People don't trust the banks, but at the same time, when you are in countries like South Africa and a variety of other places, we don't necessarily want to keep money at home either, right? It wouldn't be too safe for me to have a stash of money, of cash, lying around in my cupboard at home. Somebody could either come and rob me at night, or there could be whatever that is. So people still prefer to keep money at the bank, irrespective of the fact that we are more and more understanding of the fact that the banks are lying to us, right? But while we know the banks are lying to us, what is the better alternative? And I think that we are slowly with this pandemic right now, we're slowly getting into that realm of the realization that the blockchain technology, the digital world, is the world we are going to live in. And guess what we've done on our side? We actually released a technology platform, a custody platform, and as part of the CryptoVex Capital custody platform, giving any digital asset holder, somebody who holds Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever that is, tokens and you name it, the latitude of protecting their asset, right? So I will talk about that probably later on in this particular conversation to expand. But I want to come back to you and you explain to me the parallel. I mean, while blockchain finance, can you help the people who are listening to you right now? How is this important for them, both as an individual but also as a corporate company?
Well, we can talk for weeks
I know.
about,
Summarize
about this
that.
topic. So, first of all, we have a very subjective understanding of what money is. First of all, because money is commoditized in the way we use it. So it's very simple. We earn money somehow by doing a job, and then eventually this money takes shape in an electronic manner, and then essentially we don't even see it. We just spend using credit card on doing wired payment, and then we can buy some goods, and for
Right.
us everything works. The problem is we don't know what's in the back, how wealth is being distributed on a worldwide basis, because it's something beyond our control. So when we see the stock market, not all the people are trading, not all the people have an understanding on how markets works.
Right.
Some people have put some money, some grants there, and eventually have made money. But it's difficult for normal people not working in the finance space, understanding how complicated and very expensive this machine is,
Great.
which allow us to manage money from an end-to-end perspective on a global scale. First of all, probably people don't know that since 1970, there is no, for every dollar, because dollar is the most important currency in the world, being accounting for 55% of the overall currency market. So for every dollar being printed until 1970, there was $1 worth of gold in the reserve
Right.
of the banks. Since 50 years, is no longer like this. So this
Yeah.
means every bank and government can print technically money with no underlying assets.
Sure.
So this means we are still playing with kind of a digital currency
Yep.
right now. And the only guarantees that these guarantees in brackets, that these currency keep the value, the nominal value that this currency has, and for which all our assets are somehow linked into value, is because of government policy. So this means our future and our devaluation and our wealth of the assets we have and ourselves depends on this policy. So the fiscal and the monetary policy of the governments. So to me, what blockchain introduced, it's a complete, is not yet entirely decentralized by itself, but it's relatively new. I mean, it's only 10 years old. So this means it's introducing what all the governments are doing on a global scale, and it simplifies the monetary policy into one single piece of technology, which is equal for all the participants to this currency. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what for me is Bitcoin. I mean, blockchain being the underlying, but Bitcoin as being the currency. How the Bitcoin simplifies the monetary policies and the monetary activities done by governments on a global scale. It simplifies because Bitcoin itself has embedded in the way technology is being programmed and inflation, which I mean, it's just happened a few days ago, which is programmed over time. So this means the coin itself increase in value up to a certain level where it ends. So this means all those rules that governments use. I mean, if you've seen what happened in the US by printing more than 2 trillion of US dollars to stimulate the economy, all these practices are artificial. And sooner or later, I mean, any of us, every of the 7 billion people of this world, 7.7 billion people of this world, will be
Right.
impacted by this, badly impacted. So for me,
Right.
I would like not to be dependent by wrong practice that we already know they don't work.
Right.
And I envision to work on something that I trust more. Now, in the current period of time, we don't have to think that Bitcoin and the blockchain is the solution of everything, because as I said before, it's relatively new. There's still a lot of improvement to happen in the field, in the technology, in the regulation as well, and also in the adoption at the end with people and consumers. But it paves, in my view, a better world, which is fundamentally relying on people
Right.
and not on centralized authorities.
Right. You mentioned a few keywords that are quite interesting to me right now, and I want to dive a little deeper into that. You talked about money, you talked about inflation, okay, and you talked about the printing of money, which
Yeah.
the Fed are currently doing right now, right? So let's talk about money for a second, because the people here that are following us need to be able to understand. And I always say this: for anybody to be able to better understand what Bitcoin is, they need to do themselves a favor by understanding the history or the evolution of money. Because inevitably speaking, I mean, when we go back into this and we want to really understand, for me, the world of Bitcoin is just a continuation of the history of money, right?
Yeah.
No, and I don't want to get into that deeper right now. That could be a topic for another day. From having to be in a barter deals to entering the digital world. And in fact, I always say this to people that, you know what, those who actually first introduced the notion of digital currency, or at least a digitized format of money, were the banks, because the one thing they wanted to do was, hey, you know what, we have a computer, we are in a digital space, we can have access to internet, and when you go into the bank and you log into your internet bank account, there you see a whole bunch of zeros and ones, right? So that represents now your digital representation of what you are supposedly having in your bank account.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we still were fearing is that, hey, you know what? How do I quantify this thing? How do I touch it? You don't touch Bitcoin; it's a digital thing, right? The same like you wouldn't. I mean, look, this is a dollar right now that I had. This piece of paper is worthless, right? But the thing is, if it is represented in a digital format and it is in your bank account, the only thing you will actually do, if I have a card right now, I have a card here, but I mean, the only thing you will actually do is, if you want to monetize this, you go into an ATM, you put in the card, you punch in a few numbers, and then you actually draw. So that's the whole monetization aspect. But until then, this thing is kept in a digital format, right? And same thing, you can actually use your card to be able to order a few goods online. And in that particular token as well, you are digitizing your asset that you have within the bank to order a book or to order food and so forth. You literally aren't necessarily spending physical cash. It is a representation of the zeros and ones that you have in the bank that you're monetizing against. So literally, it's an exchange of value. So for the people who are following us here right now, I think the most important thing here is the following. People need to understand that three important aspects that make you understand what money is. First of all, it is a medium of exchange. And as a medium of exchange, this is the one thing I love to say to people, right? I say, listen, as a medium of exchange, this cup right now that I'm holding, I've got nice little tea, could be considered money if Daniele accepts it and really realizes there's certain value within this cup. So if I exchange my cup and I say, hey, Daniele wants my cup, great. And I say to Daniele, listen, I want your pen because I see you've got a beautiful pen, and let's exchange that together. And if he accepts what I give him, I can consider this as money because already it responds to the one aspect of value exchanging. But this is where this is going to fail that particular test, right? Because the second aspect of money is it is a unit of account. Now, unfortunately, this cup can no longer be considered as money from that perspective because it fails the test of a unit of account. as a unit of account, if markup, okay, all, I mean, is valued at approximately $100, and Daniele wants markup, and I say, listen, Daniele, well, you want markup? Great, I can give it to you. But what do you have? Maybe give me your pen or whatever. And if Daniele tells me, well, you know what, John, I only have this particular pen over here. And if I tell to Daniele, listen, your pen is less valuable than my cup. But unfortunately, I don't want to divide my cup, to cut my cup in half so that Daniele can actually have it. That's why there has been an introduction of fiat money, paper money, right? So that if, for example, I go buy bread and I use that, okay, so the guys can give me in exchange back something like that, because then it becomes a unit of account. So if I've got that piece right there, which is $20, and I go and buy bread, which is about 19 rand, the guy will give me 1 rand back, okay, because it's visible, right? So therefore, this particular cup right here will fail the test of being money. But the last point, and this is a very important point, folks, the last point is the following. And this is where this particular paper fails the test of money. And I will tell you and I will give you the difference between currency and between money, right? So what's happening right now is the following. The third aspect of money is a store of value. Now, unfortunately, this does not store value, especially over time, because a piece of paper right now of $20, that $20 is not going to buy you the same amount of goods next year. Why? Because of the inflation. Like you said, the Fed have just printed so much money that anybody holding on to fiat right now will lose the value of this particular paper. That means absolutely nothing next year. Now, what holds value? Assets like gold, silver, and Bitcoin. Because now, why does it hold value? Bitcoin is an asset, an appreciating asset in value. And you said that the second point that I want to talk about is the halving that you just mentioned earlier, right? The halving, by the way, happened on Tuesday,
12th.
on the 12th. Yeah, it was actually the 12th. What is the halving, folks? The halving is the ability to decrease the supply of Bitcoin on the market and increase on its scarcity, just like the gold. Gold is scarce, and because gold is scarce, gold has got so much value. Think about it. Do you think that $100 or 100 rand is still going to have the same value if the Fed or the central bank are going to print 500 billion rand? No. 100 rand is no longer going to have that same value. Why? Because there's so much on the market right now. So much paper is going to be circulating as part of grants and loans and things like that, given to the businesses and people around the market. Because of that, the value of your paper currency is going to decrease. The inflation rate is going to increase dramatically, but the inflation rate of Bitcoin decreases. It was built like that. Every 4 years in the Bitcoin ecosystem, there's a halving that happens, meaning that there's a difficulty that increases, and we see less and less Bitcoin on the market, more and more people wanting Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin shooting up the roof, and the value of this thing going down to zero. That's exactly what it is. And that's why I love this particular ecosystem, guys. We're going to have other sessions in the future where we really dive into some of the technical aspects of this. And I'm so excited about this thing. But Bitcoin for me is the future, and I love it. But one question I want to ask you, Daniele, is this. There is today over 2,000 cryptocurrencies on the marketplace, right?
Even more.
What do you make of Bitcoin? Which one is your favorite cryptocurrency and why?
Let's say It's difficult. No, I don't know because I'm long on a couple of them, but and particularly two which I cannot even name it. But it's so nice. I mean, I I honestly I started to follow closely Bitcoin since 3 years. And as you can observe, and if you take the top 10 cryptocurrency per market capitalization, so the ones, the top 4 or 5 are above 1 billion in terms of market cap. If you take Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin, they are a little bit less than 10 billion. Well, a little bit less, much less than 10 billion market cap. So if you take the top 4 or 5, excluding the stable coins, definitely you can only see that Bitcoin is not correlated to anything else. So when I'm not giving advice on how to invest, but when I invest money, I try to educate myself and not rely on anyone else's opinion on how to measure the price and the value of a certain asset. And if I come to the conclusion that is underpriced, then I started to invest on it, into that asset. So and that's the reason why when I started to dig into the Bitcoin, so my calculation was that everything below $7,000, it's underpriced. So when the market is going down below 7,000, for me, there's opportunity to buy. And because that's my own calculation and my own belief, it's not only about having the maths. But then what it somehow strengthened my understanding on this is that when the Bitcoin has a big move up or down, the volatility, so-called volatility, all the others, starting from Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin, and all the others follow. So even, it's going up or down, all the others follow, which is not true on the other way around, meaning that if you never have a very sudden, decrease or increase in valuation or in price, and the Bitcoin is completely, unaffected by that. So this leads me to think that currently cryptocurrency market, which is worth 246 billion, something like this overall, out of which Bitcoin is a little bit less than 60%. It follows almost entirely how Bitcoin moves. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin is the only one. I'm talking about for now, but there are promising cryptocurrency project that probably in a few years from now, I'm not saying will become as Bitcoin is today, but eventually they will create a strong alternative to the Bitcoin. So that's why my advice, if I can give one, is to closely follow the market and to be self-educated on what is eventually a cryptocurrency to deeply invest, or eventually to follow and to closely follow, and then eventually to swap or to trade or to be connected with.
I think that's a phenomenal rule, right, for everybody who wants to invest. It's unbelievable. I get every single day. I get every single day a lot of people asking me, "Hey, John, how do I invest?" And sometimes I look at the amount. I'm like, well, you know what? This is a ridiculous amount, and I don't necessarily want to work with this kind of a customer and so forth. But because what the original aim of my private fund was for a certain category of investors, okay? But we're working on a project, and I think you know that, and I've mentioned that to you before. We're working on a project whereby we're opening up investment opportunities for a lot of people. So obviously, we are not going to mention them on this particular channel right now. There will be ways for us to be able to do that intelligently, because the importance here is to educate the people. We want to be able to educate people in understanding exactly what does it mean to become an investor, what is important. So anybody can succeed in investment as long as they understand, they know what is going on, they understand exactly what the underlying asset is all about. And if they learn and they understand what that particular underlying asset is, and they educate themselves on that, and they also identify the kind of investor they are, identify exactly their level of patience. Are they impulsive? Are they risk averse? Are they guys who want to take a lot more risks and whatnot? I'm more of a risk taker, right? So I love taking a few more risks, and of course I balance out on a few other things. But I mean, investing is all about understand what you're doing, understand where you want to put your money into, and when you do that, you know what, you can even succeed by yourself. But people, not everybody has the time to be able to invest. Okay, some people are opportunistic guys. I call them the speculators. Like it's the same for them as going into the casino. And I often tell people, you know what, if you want that, let me help you go to the casino. Let's go together in the casino, and I'll help you invest your money there. But if you are a short-term or medium-term or long-term investor, it is important that you determine that about yourself, so you can actually figure out the best way to get into the market. Otherwise, I think you are screwed, and you are going to run around. This morning, I woke up and somebody said to me, "Hey, you know what? I heard there are platforms where I can put my money into." Look, I don't give no investment advice. I don't give investment advice to anybody. We know what we are doing in our fund. We have our own strategy. We educate you about the nature of this particular fund, but I don't give you investment advice. Why? Because we are not financial advisors, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not financial advisors, we know what we are doing in our space, but we educate you enough for you to be able to make your own decision. But right now, I want to tap into another topic, Daniele, and I know you and I can go on and on and on and on about the thing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it. But yeah, I see quite a few people here. There's Greg from Vancouver. There's Donna Shimete Lombela. Nice, my wife. There's Home Bridge. This is Ben, Ghana. Welcome, Benjamin. You and I are doing some amazing stuff. We will be doing, there will be a show on real estate investing. So, Benjamin is one guy I am bringing on board with regard to a few things. There's Patience Chimkunda. There's Zaid. Hello, guys. Yeah, Zaid. Well, Patience wants to learn about digital investing in the digital space. So you are at the correct show right now to be able to learn about that. But obviously, within the hour, we can't necessarily talk about everything. We give pointers here and there that are quite important with regard to what's happening in the marketplace. Okay. There is Patricia Kenge. Hello, big sister. He's talking about Bitcoin being the future wallet. I see Sergey, my man from Russia. He's from Moscow, my man. Geez, I've met a lot of people over the last 4 years. It's unbelievable. But here's my promise to you guys. Every week, I am bringing to you an expert, one expert I have met around the world. And I will always be able to showcase either a picture or something, whatever that is, that show exactly where we have been. And probably I will show a photo of Danielle and myself in,
In Dubai.
yeah, I got you all over the place. But listen, what I want to talk about is the next thing I want to talk about, honestly, is why is the blockchain so important to shape new business models and new entrepreneurs? Can you talk about that a little bit so we can actually educate masses here right now while I find a photo of you and I? Come on, go.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I mentioned before. First of all, I mean, I've been launching a different venture, different project, and most of them didn't go anywhere, and which is a necessary, learning path for every entrepreneur. I never believe. I mean, I have some books also here, bit scaling, good to great, and other stuff. So when
Right.
you have all success story, but at the end, being an entrepreneur, it becomes mostly to deal with failures all along and pain, which is not a nice story to tell. So why blockchain is so important to shape new business model for entrepreneurs? It's about explaining, and I believe in the coming years we will observe development of new way of teaching. I'm not saying MBAs, but probably some educational programs that will teach people on some areas that today are completely forgotten from our education system. One is risk,
Right.
and another one is the blockchain. So, and why blockchain is so important to shape new business model is because think about for a minute. So you need to raise money. You start at the very beginning. So according to what you have been, told somewhere, how you raise money today. So either you go to your friends and family and fools sometime, and then you ask for grants, or you go to professional investors, right? And then what you give, typically in exchange of this, you give equity. That's a standard path of financing any type of business. But if you think for a minute, there is a third way to finance a business, which is creating a so-called token, which is embedded into the business you're going to shape. You can do it at the very early stage, or you can do it on a much more advanced stage. I'm much more under the opinion that every new business should prove to anyone interested to invest that it works. I don't trust much, let's say, perhaps I will hammer myself, business models that are completely on paper, because you need to show the ability of executing what you have in mind. Because there's a huge disconnection between people which are good to talk and people that are good to do. And very seldom people have good to talk are good at doing. Okay. So in other words, you have to show the ability that you are successful at doing what you believe is going to be successful according to your vision. And number two, when you turn out, you want to scale, you want to have more money because you want to scale, you want to do marketing, you want to improve your product. At that moment in time, then the blockchain might become so essential to scale and to raise money. Why? Because you can create a token out of your business model. That could be an equity token, but could be also a future cash flow token. This means you create a piece, a digital container, which wrap an underlying asset, which could be, for example, a piece of the revenues, a piece of the margin of your company, or a piece of the product that you are selling. And thanks to these, investors might be interested to buy a piece of it. And this is a alternative to equity. This is good for investors, for entrepreneurs, because it will not dilute them in terms of keeping the equity safe for eventual other rounds of financing in the future, for example, Series A or going to IPO or similar path. So this means the equity structure stays the same, but at the same time, it creates a valuable piece of investment for investors, which at the end will have, for example, a piece of the revenues of the company. So in case something goes wrong, so this means the business plan is not met, of course, nothing happened and investors will not be happy. But if you start thinking that you have, first of all, you need to bootstrap. So you need to prove strong element of ability in running your business and not looking for money too early. Raising money, in my view, as my partner, Tim Vasco, is always repeating me, raising money is not difficult. It's more difficult how you raise money. And this is what people should understand, not to raise easy money too early, but to build their muscles with the ability to succeed in the market for real. And then evaluating also, thanks to the blockchain, on how to scale smart capital, not too early, not too late, proving that you are good and you are able to execute, and then later eventually follow what is the so-called traditional path. So the blockchain, it helps, in my view, dramatically at the seed round, at early stage capital, to somehow force entrepreneur to prove they are good, and then be smart on how to raise early money, embracing the technology, because that's another step of ability they have to show to investors, how they do all this together. I cannot hear you. Are you mute? I cannot hear. No. Let me disconnect and reconnect. Hold on a sec. No, I can't hear. Hold on a sec.
You can hear me now? Yeah.
I can hear now.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's carry on. So I think it was on my end. There's been a connection delay on my side. I can see
Okay.
as well. Okay, beautiful. So everybody can hear me now. We're back on. So we might take 5 minutes lag again. So I see Greg. Okay, everybody can hear me. That's great. So Daniele, what I was about to allude to is what you just mentioned to me right now is something that we need to come back on another conversation to talk about the importance of raising capital for project and for entrepreneurs and for building entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sbu. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Eminence. That's my younger brother right there. And everybody. Thanks, Tiffany. Tiffany's joining us from San Diego. Lovely, California. Tiffany, good to see you here. And thank
I
you for
know.
enjoying the conversation
Hi,
with
Tiffany.
Daniele. This
So
is a
Tiffany
neighbor.
just sent me a message before. I wasn't able to send her a link. Now she's
Okay.
on board, which is cool.
I can see she's on board, and Greg too. So, look, this is a great conversation to have for a lot of people who are looking to raise money for their blockchain project. I always say this to people. You know what? The one thing that I've learned is knowing how to raise capital. We're not going to talk about it right now. We're going to talk about it on another conversation because that's a whole topic for 2 weeks. We can educate people to talk about that for the next 2 weeks. I see Sergey is asking here, guys, talk about the interest rate, the annual interest rate for investors in the STO sphere. So for everybody else, STO is security token offering. Daniela, do you wanna touch on that a little bit, please?
Yeah. I can give some examples of something we are doing right now at Blockcerts. Obviously, without sharing the details of
Sure.
prospective clients.
Yeah.
So there are different ways of right now the market is heading when it comes down security. I don't like much the word security token STO. It disturbed me a little bit. I like a
And
little bit more digital securities. So
sure.
instead of security token, because security token, it implies that you have to follow the security laws. So you might have a token which might not necessarily classify as a security, and then you can have a much more smooth regulatory path and approval to get your token listed and registered into that jurisdiction. So coming back to the question about the security token and the interest rate out of the token. So there are different types of underlying assets which are wrapped into a so-called security token. I mean, the common one are fractional ownership in the real estate. Other
I
one
love
could be equity, which is very nice,
I love it.
because it's becoming, it takes some time, but it's becoming more and more liquid. I mean,
Yeah.
we as human, we always try to be over optimistic about how much time is going to develop. Usually good things takes time. So this means to develop an alternative secondary market where you can trade real estate tokens as well as you do today stocks into the Nasdaq is not something you can do it overnight. Building the same liquidity, the same infrastructure, and the same networks. But coming back to the question about the interest rate, so typically investors might receive a much better return of investment out of the investment than in the traditional markets. And I give a very simple example. Anything above 4 to 5% a year in the real estate industry, especially in this period of time, is very interesting. So in some token offering that we're doing that we have not yet released to the market, so the return of investment is projected to be much higher than that. So this means,
Right.
first of all, you need to have at least a 50% upside versus the traditional deals you have on traditional markets. So as it becomes more interesting, and what is even more interesting is that the investment you're making is more liquid and you have less lock-in period. So this means in a shorter period of time as an investor, the capital that is being somehow connected to investment can be liquidated provided that that token is being listed to a liquid exchange or to the liquid secondary market. All this is improving every single day. So every month you see very strong improvement versus the previous one. So this is something to be closely followed up. Is developing. The market cap of the security token, it's still very low. We're talking about on the secondary market we have less than 200 million overall, so it's almost inexistent. But what I always repeating myself is that when you start seeing it, it's too late to jump into it. So it's better to start earlier and eventually to take some time until it lifts off, and then being at the right time on the right place.
Great. So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're getting towards the end. There's so much exciting things about this particular conversation. But you know what, Daniele, what I want to do is you and I have so much to talk about, especially when it comes to investing, alternative investment. You just mentioned something about real estate, one of my favorite topic. I want to educate the people. I want to educate everybody else who's following me right now to understand what it means to be a primary investor, to understand what it means to be a secondary investor, to understand how you can actually get one of your projects to be listed on an exchange for those who are in the blockchain space, to understand how you can raise capital. There's a lot of people in Africa, in South Africa, in the region where I am, who are so eager to tap into the real estate investing. And I always say to them, you know what, there's a better way for you to become a real estate investor in this current era of the fourth industrial revolution and blockchain technology through fractionalized investment and digital tokens. Okay, so platforms like BlockSearch that can actually build a whole tokenized economy for blockchain related real estate project. And also some of our platforms, our banking platforms on the custody and the things. I will talk more about our platforms next week. Well, actually, every Friday I will actually mention something about our own platform. Those are the tools that we use to make these kinds of projects important. And also, for a project to succeed, we need liquidity. And who brings liquidity in the marketplace? Investors. And once we build this thing, the project actually gets kicked off. And guess what? The secondary market is there to be able to. So these things, we are going to talk about them as part of our future series. But mark these words. And what I want you guys to do is to write down your questions, okay, for our next show. Daniele is going to come back on this show probably in about 2 weeks' time, because
Absolutely.
on Monday I'm having the Redefine Your Hustle show. I will be hosting a lady who owns a restaurant. So under the Monday show, we talk about your entrepreneurship and business. But he's an entrepreneur, wants to be an entrepreneur, who's struggling to being an entrepreneur, who wants to grow being an entrepreneur. And on Fridays, we talk about fintech, we talk about blockchain, and we talk about all aspects of alternative investment. It doesn't matter the field, we educate you guys. Before we go, I want you to give me the last 2 minutes about the impact of COVID in Italy. Because for what a lot of people don't understand or don't know about you is that you are from Italy. And we are going through a pandemic right now. So, guys, Daniele is Italian. Buongiorno, Daniele. He speaks Italian, but also, and so do I. Tell me a little bit more about this whole situation, man. And what do you think? I know you sound unsafe. You obviously locked yourself in pretty much and in confinement. But please explain to me how hard this has been for you or for everybody else in Italy.
Well, first of all, I moved to Italy while the lockdown started, because I was living in Switzerland. And I decided to move myself and my family in Italy as of the 1st of March this year, following a trip in New York late February. And then, first of all, I started to follow, I call it the precautionary principle, meaning I follow very much the trading environment. And I think one of the biggest quality of a trader is to panic early. Okay, that's so important. So I learned with my money.
So,
yeah, and then if you don't panic early, then you're in trouble. you're in trouble. So that's why I started to panic early in the pandemic area. I think I started to panic end of January, actually. While here in Italy, people saying, yeah, don't worry, there is the Chinese stuff and it will never come here. And I say, guys, when you start to see it, it's too late.
Yeah.
You have to prevent from seeing it. So you have to take precautionary measures early stage in order to not to be heavily impacted. But so long story short, I started to reduce my face-to-face meetings. I didn't wear masks, but in long haul flights, I had a kind of a mask in front. So I started to be, as of end of January, to be very cautious because I've seen this being a very severe stuff. And what happened in Italy? It was, I mean, Italy. It's from a communication standpoint, it's very weak, and it's so weak, but it's also transparent, which is good and bad at the same time. So
Yeah.
uh, I somehow felt more attached to my country into this spirit of being transparent at any cost. While we've seen the financial market were collapsing, still the prime minister was saying, yeah, it's true, we are severely impacted. So we close down everything and then everything will recover. But he was
Yeah.
telling this in a very, in a very strange manner. But I appreciated very much this type of transparency, early stage, very early
Right.
stage. And then by advancing the lockdown period, it became a little bit more chaotic in the way it was organized. All the activities had to be reorganized, and Italy, I would say, is not the most known country in the world to be a very efficient and organized country. So this means it becomes a little bit, messy in how things were shaping. But all in all, I think the country reacted very responsibly to face the lockdown. It was severely impacted, yes, mostly in the north of Italy, so the Milan area, mostly because it's very densely populated, but because also it's very strongly connected. So the development of the pandemic, it's somehow spread because of the connectivity. And the more you're connected, the more you spread, the more you have people infected, and the higher the death toll is. But I feel safe because of my attitude and because Italy adopted not early stage, but at some point in time, earlier than another country, adopted a policy of being transparent and being in lockdown. So it's not the worst. I'm much more feared about countries like Sweden, for example,
Right.
and how this is being managed there with a herd immunity. And I believe at least this is a country that have took some responsible measures.
Beautiful. You know what, my friend? Thank you very much. I'm so privileged to have friends like you around the world in all
My
four
pleasure
corners of
too.
I will bring you back in multiple occasions because I know you and I have, like pools full of information to be able to pour out to the people who want to learn. And also because of the common goals that we have in building a long lasting ecosystem of believers, investors, and participants of this particular ecosystem that you and I believe in. I want to share a photo of you and I at a conference for our viewers.
Oh, there was Jason.
So over here, this is me and Daniele right in the middle.
I was
And
tired. I was tired. I didn't sleep for 2 nights there.
remember this guy? This guy was like I think he was from South Korea, right?
Jason Kidd.
You kept in touch with him?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's he's an investor. He's very active with the government of Dubai on several
Okay,
blockchain projects. He's a good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
fantastic. And he's look, this guy did. He's very young. He did extremely well early on,
Yeah.
and he invests in multiple blockchain projects around the world. So, guys, I'm just showing you. Some of the things that we do around the world, and it's really really great. So I'm going to go through just probably two questions. Okay, somebody is asking, Patricia is asking, how can Bitcoin be explained in a simple language to someone who don't have a clue of what the digital market is? Is Bitcoin for poor or average countries? I love that question.
Well, I would simply tell right now, I would simply
Right.
tell is the new gold in digital shape.
Great. Now, do you
So, I
think?
mean, because at the end, right now, Bitcoin has configured itself as being a store
Yeah.
of value, predominantly. Is not yet a peer-to-peer cash system yet, okay? Because of many things. So I would simply explain is the digital version of gold.
Let me ask you this: do you think that only the guys who are savvy in technology should have access to Bitcoin as a digital currency, or you do believe that anybody else around the world, anybody will pretty much understand or make use of of a phone can certainly have access to? I believe so. I believe it's not necessarily for the. In fact, I do believe that Bitcoin was built for the people, and that means including the poor.
Yeah,
What's your
what scares today people is the volatility of Bitcoin. So they buy $100 of Bitcoin, and the next day it's 15% less or 50% more,
and they're
and
scared.
this scares people because they start panicking if they're new in trading, if they're new in volatility.
Right.
So, and that's an element to me. I mean, following very closely trading,
Right.
volatility is not necessarily bad, and very few people know that Bitcoin right now is less volatile than the S&P 500, so the Standard and Poor uh, um, uh, listing. So, in fact, at the end of the day, Bitcoin in terms of volatility is more or less the same as the stock exchange, so the US or Nasdaq and S&P 500. So as a whole, so if you are somehow not concerned too much about volatility, of course, it's definitely a good store of value. But at the end, more and more, I believe we will have more means to exchange bitcoins in real life. It's still not yet happened because of volatility and because probably of higher transactional costs. So, but
I,
this is just a matter of time.
I look at Bitcoin as at the moment really it's pretty much more as a store of value, my digital gold. And the one thing that if I want to hedge, if I want to build a few things around this in the future, I'm just keeping digital gold, man. Anyway, so somebody else is saying, this is Tiffany. Let me bring you up here. Hello, Tiffany. So she's saying that maybe in the next discussion regarding, you and I can actually talk about utility token versus regular digital token. How's that? Do you want to give a glimpse? Don't spill the beans. Just talk about something
No, I
in
mean,
1 minute.
I would like to talk about this because there's a misconception about the utility token because of the ICO. So back in
Yeah.
2017, so there is
Mhm.
still a good element out of the ICO back in the day because I believe the field of the industry that it's more hungry to raise money and to have capital needs for growth is the small medium enterprise. Okay, so that's why. But we will tackle this point more in detail. So here about utility versus regular digital token. Utility token is essentially a token that it gives utility at doing something. For example, you're a gamer and you want to use that token for example, to buy a specific good or items. So in that case, can be kind of a utility because you use this token as a mean of buying, for example, something or to do a specific set of action into the game. So this means it gives utility at doing something. While the token being used mostly for fundraising purpose, they are so-called
Yeah.
security token, as I said before, and they are a financial instrument. They are regulated, and because you cannot raise money by using a utility token. Probably people, I don't know if here someone has followed what happened with Telegram. Eventually, we can discuss on a separate side. But Telegram raised money with a utility token, and then it was stopped by the SEC because it's fundamentally illegal to raise money with a utility token.
Okay, so that will be a topic for another day. Guys, we have plenty of topics. I'm going to pull somebody else here. Pashanas Chimkunda, who says he or she wants to learn about investing in digital space. You're at the right place. So obviously, come in, charm in next time, and so forth. Daniele, thank you very much. And
Thank you,
I love you,
John.
man. I look forward to engaging more in a few other things. Okay, so I'm gonna say goodbye to you. I'm gonna say goodbye
To
to a few other
Italy.
guys. Yeah, fantastic. So yeah, I'm just gonna go out here with another little intro for people to see exactly what we are doing in this space. Okay, so I'm just gonna go there and obviously talk about that. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you, John.